Lesson 89, Stems and Personal Endings. Catherine, the time has come to talk to our readers and listeners a bit more about how Greek verbs are built.
All right.
So when you have a Greek verb, it's not just one big mass of letters. A Greek verb has different components or parts to it. And in the kind of verb that we've been studying so far in this book, we can break it down into two main parts. We can say it has a stem and then a personal ending. Here as an example verb, we have the verb trecho, which really is the only action verb they know so far. Right, Catherine?
Exactly. And so trecho will demonstrate not only stem, but also personal endings, as opposed to estin is a little bit different because it's an irregular verb and it's a verb of being, so it's going to function a little differently than a verb like trecho. Most Greek verbs are action verbs, and so trecho is a very good one to start with as an example verb.
That's right. If we used eimi for this, it would be a little bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So trecho is a good one to start with. And so what we want you to see here is that the first four letters are the same in all six present tense forms. So we have tau, rho, epsilon, and chi, trech, and that forms what we call the stem of the verb.
And the stem is the part that does not change and that the endings are added to. So the stem remains constant, but the endings will change depending on what we need the verb to do.
And if we take all those endings and we just chop them off and look at them in an isolated way, we would have what you see here in this second chart, o, ace, a, omen, eta, usi, or usin. And again, the name for these endings is the term personal endings.
And this has to do with the fact that they show person. So first person, I or we, second person, you or y'all, third person, he, she, it, or they. These endings show person, and then they also show number, singular or plural.
And so, as we move forward and learn more verbs, you're going to see these same endings coming back over and over and over again. So all the verbs that we learn in this book, with the exception of only a couple, which we'll tell you about in the future, but almost all the verbs in this book will have these exact same endings. So you can memorize these endings as a way to help yourself get accustomed to the way Greek verbs work. And we have a little sort of a math problem here, so you can see how the stem and the personal ending add up to form the actual verb form. So trech is the stem plus ace for second person singular. Put them together and they equal treches. You run or you are running. Now, for those of you who are listening to this who might like a bit more detail in your learning, before we move on, a quick technical note. What we are referring to here as personal endings technically also includes something else called a thematic vowel. But most of the textbooks out there present these endings in the way we're presenting them here, just for ease of teaching, to make it easier for the students to absorb this material. Technically speaking, for example, in the first person plural, the ending omen, the omicron there technically is called a thematic vowel, and then the mu, epsilon, nu, that part is technically called the personal ending. But we present them together here. It's a long story, but in some forms, the thematic vowel mixes with the personal ending in a way that's too complicated for beginners. Of course, you'll learn about that later if you keep on studying Greek. So technically, these are the thematic vowel and the personal ending, but just as a sort of a convention or a way to be expedient with teaching these endings, we call them personal endings, and we present them as you see them here and we call them personal endings. But in the future, you'll learn that there's a bit more to it than that.